people take when they defend Bitcoin's energy consumption. And there's this important recognition on the top that is Bitcoin consumes a lot of energy. On a relative basis, it's actually very small, but on a gross basis, and most people don't understand the orders of magnitude of how much energy is consumed in the world, so they don't really have a baseline. And when they hear something compared to the amount of energy that Bitcoin consumes, whether it's more energy than a small country or more than 10 million homes in the United States, that it sounds like a lot. And that the natural response is that people try to justify it by saying that, well, Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energies. It's consuming only energy that's being wasted. And I really think that that is the wrong framing. It's not necessarily fundamentally wrong. I believe those things to be true. I believe that Bitcoin does incentivize renewable energy to be developed. And I believe that Bitcoin does, not just that I believe, it does that. And Bitcoin also captures wasted energy. By definition, we see it every day. But it's really important. And I also think that it's beautiful that somebody like Elon Musk doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't see it. And he sends a loud signal to everybody else that he doesn't get it. And what I mean by that is that if you start to understand the problem that Bitcoin is intending to solve, that becomes the entry point to understand the justification for all the energy that Bitcoin does consume and will consume into the future. And that the counterpoint is also true. If you do not understand the problem that Bitcoin intends to solve, and that it will solve the most fundamental problem of more than 7 billion people in the world, then there could be no defense or justification for the energy that it consumes. So if you don't understand the problem statement and that the solution that Bitcoin offers, any amount of energy consumed could never be justified. And so and it's a good thing that we talk about this right after volatility. If you see this highly volatile thing and you have no understanding for why people demand it and why people value it, and then you're told that it consumes 18 gigawatts of power, of course, you have no grounding or no foundation to even think about it. It's like there is no utility in this thing and it consumes 18 gigawatts of power. That's bad for the environment. And so I start people with, they have to understand that first principle problem of what is money. And they have to understand why Bitcoin fixes the problem of money and that it's possible that singularly Bitcoin solves a problem for 7 billion people. Because without that, there's no way to agree to disagree if we're not speaking from the same principle. And the analogy that I use, not the analogy, the example that I use, money is the economic good that coordinates all other resources within the economy. It's what allows humans to trade with each other efficiently. And I ask people to go do this exercise, the next time that you go into a grocery store, sit in the very center of the grocery store and start to consciously consider how many human beings had to conspire to get all of the things that you want in one place, such that at the end of your day, you can mindlessly walk through the aisles and grab one of what are thousands of goods all in one place. And that when you start to add that up, that on any modern grocery store, that it's probably not fewer than 100 million people contributed to that process. If you start to think about each individual good, the supply chains that required to not only produce the good, but to get that good to market, to get that good into your grocery store. All the materials, the point of sale systems, the technology in the point of sale system, the roads, the trucks that delivered it, the energy that required the roads to be built and the trucks to be built. That all of that does not happen by some collective hallucination. It only happens and it only exists by the function of money. And each one of those inputs, whether it's the goods on the shelves themselves, the POS terminal, the roads, the trucks, the energy to build all those things. That each one of those things required energy to be consumed. That there are energy inputs and there are energy outputs. And that the first energy input is getting energy out of the ground. And that in order to get energy out of the ground efficiently, it's a very complicated thing. It requires money to do because it requires a lot of different skill sets. If you start to think about wells and oil field services and kind of upstream, midstream, downstream refinement, power production, that those very kind of first principle energy inputs, that those themselves are highly complex systems and require a monetary good to coordinate. And so if all these goods that we consume down the line and thinking about the grocery store, that they also only get there via the function of money. And so when you start to understand this problem, you start to realize that we will not get the goods at the grocery store, nor will we have power at our homes if we don't have a reliable form of money. And that the way that I describe it in Bitcoin Does Not Waste Energy is that because of that fact, money is the first order. And then the second order is getting energy out of the ground. And then the third and higher level orders are, and derivatives are the actual end market goods. That if all of those end market goods require energy inputs and that they're the energy outputs, that the highest and best use of energy becomes securing the money and the monetary network, because we won't have the other things down the line if we don't have the money to get the energy resources out of the ground.